Okay. Is my mic on? Great. Good afternoon. Welcome to the February 26th, 2026 special meeting of San Diego County Community Power Board of Directors. I am Tara Lawson-Remer, Chair of the Board representing the County of San Diego. We welcome members of the public, community power staff, and board members joining us today at the Port of San Diego Administration Building. I now call the meeting to order. Mari, please call the roll.
Director Elo Rivera.
Present.
Director Fisher.
Present.
Director Insunza.
I'm here.
Director San Antonio.
Present.
Director Suzuki.
Here.
Vice Chair Yamani. Here. Chair Lawson-Remer.
Here.
Quorum, Madam Chair.
Okay, please stand and face the flag for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, we acknowledge that this meeting is taking place on the land of the original inhabitants of the greater San Diego region. A land acknowledgement is a critical step towards working with Native communities to create meaningful partnerships and inclusion in the stewardship and protection of their cultural resources and homelands. Let us take a moment to honor these ancestral grounds that were the traditional lands of the Kumeyaay. Okay, thank you. At the request of staff, tonight's regular agenda will be reordered to have item 18 go before item 15. So we now begin with non-agenda public comments. And apologies, before we start, I'll note that written public comments were submitted before the board meeting and have been emailed to board members prior to this meeting and will also be posted online. Mari, do we have any non-agenda public comments?
We do not, Madam Chair.
None. Okay. So we now move to the consent calendar, items 1 through 14.
Move for approval, Madam Chair.
Motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Before we to consider a vote, first we need to ask if any board members would like to pull any items from consent or have any comments on any items in the consent agenda. No comments, nothing to pull. Okay, are there any questions from any board members? All right, do we have any public comment?
We do not, Madam Chair.
Okay. We have a motion by Vice Chair Yamani and a second by Commissioner.
Director Insunza.
Director Nzunza. Thank you. Director Nzunza, Mari, please call the roll.
Director Elo Rivera.
Yes.
Director Fisher.
Aye.
Director Insunza.
Yes.
Director San Antonio. Director Suzuki.
Aye.
Vice Chair Yamani.
Aye.
Chair Lawson-Remer.
Aye.
Motion carries, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you all. So we now begin with item 18, which, as I mentioned at the top, has been reordered. This is adopt resolution number 2026-3, authorizing execution of an energy prepayment transaction, related documents, and form of document subject to maximum issuance amount, limitation on fees, and a minimum required savings. Jeb Spengler, the Senior Strategic Finance Manager, will present this item.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members of the board, Jeb Spengler, Senior Strategic Finance Manager with San Diego Community Power. Thank you for reordering. This is a somewhat of a time-sensitive, market-related item that would be the East Coast participants that are anxious for this to move forward will be happy that this gets done a little earlier. So with that, we're here today to seek your approval to authorize a third prepay clean energy transaction. Just by way of background, some of the diligence behind the prepay program that we are now implementing started way back in 2023. In 2024, we approved with moving forward with our first transaction after a series of procurement activities to approve the use of certain bond underwriters, energy suppliers, legal counsel, municipal advisors, et cetera. To date, there have been two prepay transactions, one in November of 2024, and the second one just last summer in July of 2025. Collectively, those two transactions have saved ratepayers almost $100 million over the next 10 years. And given the size of our our PPA portfolio, our energy portfolio, we have the capacity to do a number of these transactions again down the road. To date, there have been 27 clean energy prepaid transactions in the state of California by other CCAs. Importantly, a number of these CCAs have implemented kind of multi-transaction programs like we're implementing here at San Diego Community Power. CPA, I think, has 6 or so prepaid transactions. AVA's like 4 or 5. There's a number of the CCAs. This will be our third, so we still have a little road to go. But ultimately, this is a well-implemented program that's proven quite useful in saving ratepayer dollars. This shows our savings to date. The bars are actually the anticipated savings for the first two transactions that we've already executed. I've layered the line on top of that. That's actually the estimated savings on top of current savings for this upcoming transaction, ultimately reaching almost 20 million in total annual savings through the 3 transactions by 2030. Interestingly enough, this transaction, we're also looking at going out a little bit further in terms of the initial term or the initial period of these bonds. So we'll have actually locked in savings through what we're hoping is 10 years. That's still subject to change at this point, but we're ultimately aiming for 10 years. The roadmap for this transaction, again, we selected our service providers back in 2024 through a solicitation process. In November 2025, we engaged Goldman Sachs as the clean energy prepay counterparty for this transaction. The prior 2 were with Morgan Stanley. We asked FRMC last week for their approval to move this forward. We did actually receive conditional approval from the Triple CFA board this afternoon. Their approval for us to issue bonds through them is conditioned on the fact that we move forward with approval here tonight. And then should we get approval tonight, we will move forward with bond pricing as early as next Thursday. That could actually be accelerated, potentially depending on market conditions. If we price on March 5th, we would close this bond issue in approximately March 19th. And energy cost savings on this transaction would begin as early as August. The key financing team is essentially the same as previous transactions, although as I highlighted, the clean energy underwriter, as well as the electricity supplier for this transaction is Goldman Sachs, with the electricity supplier being J. Aron. Most everybody else is same as previous transactions. We're being advised by PFM, that's our municipal financial advisor, who has guided us on all 3 of these transactions. And we're supported by outside counsel, Chapman and Cutler. We walked kind of through the boxes and arrows the last time, so I'm going to spare you the nitty-gritty details of all the boxes and arrows and all these numbers. But ultimately, Triple CFA issues 30-year bonds on behalf of Community Power to basically prepay for 30 years of energy supply. SDCP purchases that energy from Triple CFA at a discount, at an index rate plus a discount or less a discount. And the savings are ultimately generated through the dynamics between a tax-exempt bond sale through Triple CFA and the taxable rate that the funding recipient is willing to accept. The funding recipient for this particular transaction is a unique entity. It's Realty Income Corporation, which is actually a San Diego-based Fortune 500 real estate investment trust. You'll hopefully hear some more information about that company here in the not too distant future. But ultimately, they're a local partner with us on this transaction. Some of the risks and the mitigations. Ultimately, the biggest risk is what happens if the transaction terminates. Community Power actually assigns power purchase agreements into these prepaid transactions. And ultimately, if the transaction terminates for whatever reason down the road, those PPAs actually just revert back to Community Power. And we just go back to paying them as they are. We don't get the discount. So ultimately, the transaction unwinds, the bonds are paid off, and the PPAs just revert back to Community Power. Most costs are contingent on a successful bond sale, with the exception of just some green bond designation fees and Moody's rating fees. The rating fee actually is a fee that is, the rating is actually applied to the funding recipient, but the fees are ultimately borne by us through a transaction. Market timing risks, we essentially mitigate that by only going into the market when we know that we have our savings threshold met, and we can meet the other resolution parameters that you'll see, that I'll speak to in just a moment. And then finally, if there's a load loss or inability to assign a PPA into a prepay, This particular transaction will only be approximately 25 to 27% of our total load. So we have, there's quite a bit of bandwidth for us to assign any number of PPAs down the road into this transaction, given we have quite a bit of load and not as many transactions that are currently using these PPAs. And finally, tax and regulatory risk. There is just some risk of the loss of tax exemption that could ultimately, eliminate future prepay issuance, but wouldn't necessarily impact us on this particular transaction. Your board doc has a number of documents. These are just kind of the core documents in the transaction. I think there's something like 60 other documents that are various agreements between the other parties. The Clean Energy Purchase Contract is ultimately the most important. That's the contract between us and CCCFA for the purchase of energy deliveries. It also specifies things like we will assign PPAs into the transaction, as well as outlines specific minimum future savings numbers. The PPA payment custodial agreement is also an important one that directs a trustee. There's a lot of cash flows in and out of certain accounts. U.S. Bank is our custodian on this account, on this transaction. And the PPA payment custodial agreement just outlines the various cash flows when and where they occur. The form of limited assignment agreement that details the terms that are in the PPAs that get assigned into the transaction. We don't have any PPAs that we're signing in initially to this transaction. Those will come in once more PPAs are online, and we have these limited assignment agreements in place. And finally, this list of agreements right here are actually just more kind of operational agreements, just commercial administrative procedures, administration of operational matters, and just basically holding CCCFA harmless. If the transaction doesn't occur, we will pay the rating agency and the green bond fees. Finally, the board resolution authorizes us to move forward with the transaction. There's certain parameters in there that we will only work with CCCFA to sell bonds should we meet these minimum thresholds. Those thresholds are, we will sell bonds not to exceed 1.25 billion. We must have a minimum discount of 8% or better on either the fixed cash flows or an equivalent dollars per megawatt hour. Total issuance costs will not exceed 1% of the bond total. And the bonds are importantly not obligations of Community Power. They are obligations sold by CCCFA. And finally, Appendix A, the picture on the right is just a snapshot of a previous bond offering document. That's the preliminary offering statement that is distributed to investors. In Appendix A, that's kind of the section where Community Power information is stored. It's got a lot of information about customer counts. It includes our financials, 2025 financials, and ultimately that's the part of the disclosure that Community Power is responsible for. With that concludes my presentation, and happy to take any questions.
Any questions? Director Fisher.
Thank you. So just so I'm clear, I appreciate the presentation. Is it specific to a current transaction, or is it just a general guiding principles for?
This will be a specific transaction. This will be transaction number 3 for us. So,
okay.
Yes. So we've been working towards. So we have 2 transactions already executed that we've sought approval for those 2 individually as well. So once again, we're coming to you for approval for just one. Just regarding that, there are other CCAs that have approved multiple transactions, and we might seek to do that down the road, so we don't have to come back to you every single time we want to do this, if that's maybe what you're getting at.
Yeah.
But ultimately, this is just for one transaction.
Yeah, I mean, there's such a significant savings to our ratepayers that, you know, this looks good. And to your point, I think that the parameters are set and it looks good. And I'm sure that they would be changing, you know, if the market change or whatever need to be. But going forward, it'd be nice. We don't mind having you here. I don't mind having you here. But if there's an opportunity, because I just know that there's so much time that goes into presenting to the board and all that other stuff. So I think this is great for our ratepayers. It's good for those who want to know what we're doing to save the money. So thank you.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Through the chair. Director Spangler, thank you for stepping up again. I know you were on virtual at the last meeting, so thank you for taking the position of the intern position for treasurer. Thank you, sir. I just wanted to mention again the savings that this organization is going to have for this program, sir.
Other comments or questions? Okay, thank you. Do we have any public comments?
We do not, Madam Chair.
No public comments? Okay. We need a motion on this item. Okay,
Second.
we have a motion from Director Nzinza, a second from Vice Chair Yamani. Please vote.
Director Eloy Rivera,
Yes.
Director Fisher,
Aye.
Director Insunza,
Yes.
Director San Antonio, Director Suzuki. Aye. Vice Chair Yamani,
Aye.
Chair Lassen Reamer.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for a great presentation. Very succinct. I'm sure our partners will be very pleased. Okay, moving on. Item 15. This is the Community Clean Energy Grants update. Do we have a staff presentation? Okay, please go ahead.
All right, thank you, Chair. As we know, climate action works best when it's community-led. And this month, we launched the 4th cycle of Community Clean Energy Grants. These projects are designed by and for the people who will benefit the most, ensuring the solutions are relevant, sustainable, and equitable. Tonight, you'll learn more about the exciting changes to the 2026 grant cycle and hear from some of our past grantees on the impact these grants have had in our local communities. With that, I'll turn it over to Senior Community Engagement Manager, Xiomales Crespo, to present this item.
Good afternoon, board members. My name is Xiomales Crespo, Senior Community Engagement Manager here at Community Power. And today I'm excited to share more details about our 2026 Community Clean Energy Grants application and process, which launched on February 2nd. So as you may recall, this grant opportunity is a partnership between Community Power and the San Diego Foundation that first launched in 2023. In 2024, it expanded to include Calpine Community Energy, which provides operational support and additional community investment. To date, over $2.5 million has already been invested in local clean energy and green workforce projects across San Diego County. Now, this grant supports new and existing projects that move communities towards a healthier, more sustainable clean energy future. This cycle will award over $750,000 with grants ranging from $25,000 all the way up to $150,000, depending on the funding track. Our funding priorities have not changed. We are looking, there you go, there's a slight lag. Yes, we are looking for projects that increase energy literacy for Community Power customers, support energy-focused education, especially for youth, improve air quality through electrification, create clean energy workforce pathways, and strengthen energy resilience, helping communities prepare for and recover from energy disruptions. Because these projects can look very different in scope and scale, we've structured this year's funding into 2 distinct tracks. This year, we're evaluating grants a little differently, and that's intentional. As our grant program has grown, we've learned that infrastructure projects and programming projects are fundamentally different in how they're designed, funded, and implemented. By introducing a 2-track model, with 1 track now solely focused on infrastructure, we more clearly define what strong infrastructure projects look like and evaluate them based on long-term system impact, technical feasibility, and resilience benefits. This approach also directly supports our board-approved goal to develop 1 gigawatt of local renewable and clean energy capacity by 2035, including 300 megawatts of distributed energy resources enabled by Community Power programs. For Track 1, clean energy infrastructure, grants will range from $50,000 to $150,000. Examples of eligible Track 1 projects include, but are not limited to, the installation of distributed energy resources that support energy resiliency and or provide other broader customer benefits, such as distributed solar and storage, electric vehicles and EV charging stations, and grid interactive buildings, such as community resilience hubs that create ultimately energy cost reductions and provide response and services to communities during power outages. When applicable, projects will be strongly encouraged to enroll grant-funded distributed energy resources into Community Power's virtual power plant. Track 2 includes clean energy programming and grants from $25,000 to $50,000, I must be clear. Examples of eligible Track 2 programming include, but again are not limited to, workforce development programs that support careers in the clean energy industry, such as jobs and education to maintain electric vehicles or install solar panels. Energy literacy programming in communities of concern that encourages adoption of clean energy technologies, and adoption of clean energy curriculum in K through 12, focused programming as well. Applicants must clearly align their proposal with one track and its priorities. Eligible applicants include 501c3 nonprofits and other tax-exempt entities like public agencies or higher education institutions, and projects must serve community power communities, and applicants should also demonstrate experience serving communities of concern. Now, applications, this is really important, are due March 6, 2026 at 5 p.m. They are submitted through Foundant, which is the San Diego Foundation's application platform. Proposals are reviewed by a joint evaluation committee from all three partners that I mentioned at the very beginning, following a strict conflict of interest and scoring guidelines. And talking about scoring, it includes funding priority alignment and program design for 13 points, regional environmental impact for 15, feasibility and readiness for 15 points as well, and then community served 12 points. We are also providing support for applicants and interested candidates. So technical assistance is available throughout the application period to help applicants align with the funding priorities. Questions can be directed to environment@sdfoundation.org. And since the launch, the public affairs team has conducted targeted outreach on the grants by providing a live and recorded webinar to potential applicants, presentations and announcements at community collaboratives, groups, chambers, and member agencies, information to previous applicants, as well as our Power Network Coalition, and increasing our educational efforts over social media specifically. At this point, we covered the structure of the 2026 grants so that you are able to continue to share this opportunity with your communities. So please do so. In the coming weeks, you will also receive the 2024 Community Clean Energy Grants Impact Report. Sometimes the most helpful way to really understand the impact of this grant is to hear directly from the source. So today we're excited to welcome two previous grantees who will share their project journey. Their experiences really bring this work to life and demonstrate the tangible outcomes this funding is designed to support. So with that, I'll turn it over to our grantees to share more about their projects, beginning with Kim Frink, representing the Suncoast Co-op Market, and then transitioning to Frida Vergara, representing San Diego 350.
Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here today with you. So my name is Kim Rivero Frank. I serve as the board president for Suncoast Market Co-op in Imperial Beach. And we received a clean energy grant in 2024, which we were very much appreciated. So just to give you a little bit of information about who we are a community-owned and governed grocery store. So we describe ourselves as a store by the people, for the people. And we're the first food co-op to open in the South Bay and only the second in San Diego County. The last one opened over 50 years ago in Ocean Beach, People's Food Co-op. So we have 1,580 invested households and businesses. So we are community owned. We're not owned by a corporation or a sole proprietor. We have almost 1,600 households and businesses that have our owners in the co-op by purchasing 2 shares for $200 one time. We're a 6,200 square foot full service grocery store. We just opened. We had our grand opening celebration on January 31st. So we were super excited to open. In order to do this, our volunteer board of directors raised over $4 million in grants, owner equity through share purchases and donations. And I'm very proud to share that in addition to our clean energy grant, we also got grants from the County of San Diego, City of Imperial Beach, several local foundations, and many community donations as well. And our access is to, our mission is not to make money for shareholders, but it's to serve the community and our members through increasing healthy food access, promoting sustainable practices, to promote our local economy, and to provide community education. So why open a food co-op? Residents wanted more and better grocery options in IB and access to food that's good for our bodies and good for our planet. We're part of a new wave of food co-ops opening across the US, and we hope to be a model for other communities that might be considered food deserts and not have a lot of access to healthy food or grocery store options. So we actually received two we received one grant, the Clean Energy Grant, and we got participated in the Healthy Refrigeration Program with San Diego Community Power. So through that, we were able to get 2 energy efficient coolers for the store. So with we have an all electric store, so there is no gas in our grocery store, not even in our kitchen, which is unusual for commercial kitchens. So through our grant, we were able to purchase electric convection oven, electric range, electric water heater, and we also have 2 portable induction burners to use at our healthy cooking classes. So in terms of accomplishments, we're using our all-electric equipment daily to provide nourishing food to our community. We have a hot food bar, we have a salad bar, grab-and-go meals, roasted chickens. We shared clean energy messaging during our tours last year in 2025. We did over 30 community tours before we opened to get people excited and knowledgeable about what we were doing. So we did tours for the general public, for our owner members, donors, community leaders. And at all of those tours, we took people through our kitchen and proudly showed how we are all electric. And people were actually very excited to hear that and that we received that support from San Diego Community Power. We also include that messaging in our nutrition classes. So we did a Healthy Holidays class and talked about clean energy in there as well. And we did an initial tour for chefs at our grand opening. So some lessons learned. Sorry, I skipped a slide there. Electrification works in commercial kitchens, and we plan to do more tours for chefs to show them how it's working for us. It's efficient, it's precise, it's popular with our staff, and our community has a lot of pride in being an all-electric store. So next steps, now that we have our infrastructure in place, this year we're going to be continuing with some of our education. So we plan to do 9 tours for commercial kitchen operators, at least 7 healthy cooking workshops that will include clean energy messaging. We'll be doing a sustainability fair sometime this year when we want to include your other clean energy grantees in the sustainability fair, and we'll be continuing to do some newsletter articles. So we are greatly appreciative of the support that we've received. And many communities in South County like IB are historically under-resourced. So these resources that we can bring in to Imperial Beach are very much appreciated. And as you know, our community has been suffering from the transborder, pollution issues. Our South Bay communities have higher rates of asthma, diet-related chronic diseases. So this grant is helping us get healthy, nutritious food to our community. And we feel good that we're supporting climate goals and healthy food access. So I want to thank you very much, San Diego Community Power, for the support. And I hope you'll come visit us. We're at 600 Palm Avenue in Imperial Beach. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm here today to talk about the South Bay Clean Energy Education Program that we're working on. My name is Frida Vergara. I'm a senior at Bonita Vista High School and a paid intern working on this program. I grew up in Tijuana, the community of border Tijuana, and I've seen how climate injustice shows up in daily life, as well as the pollution from maquiladoras and the lack of waste education that we have back at home. And when I immigrated to the US, I wanted a lot of students to know about clean energy education and how that can lead to a lot of really good clean energy jobs. That's what pushed me to join San Diego 350. And a little bit about who we are. San Diego 350 is a local climate action nonprofit that works to prevent the worst impacts of climate injustice. Our youth program is called Youth for Climate and is youth-led. We have over 50 active student interns and volunteers from across San Diego County and plan annual events. We also work on campaigns, passing electrification resolutions, and as well as education and curriculum like we do in this program. So why this program? We choose to work in South Bay, San Diego, because our communities often face higher rates of air pollution and climate impacts than other parts of San Diego. And the schools we're working on have less resources than others throughout the city. We choose to have youth interns collaborating with teachers on curriculum and leading other parts of this program because we believe that our input is really valuable, and having the student perspective on curriculum and doing community outreach is really important as the next generation. We also choose teachers teaching a variety of subjects so that clean energy careers are talked about throughout the school and not just in science classes. Many of these classes are such as English and career preparedness. We are also much on track achieving the program so far. And our goals for the year one program were build the knowledge and to experience of 9 teachers and create a curricula, lessons plans, and activities tailored to diverse courses and the needs of students. On our year two, goals are to educate 1,800 students at 3 South Bay high schools throughout a variety of approaches about clean energy. With 3 high school interns to engage about 2,000 community members and produce a replicable package of resources and also distribute them to regional education via our partners. We have made a lot of programs so far on the program. In year one, we hired high school intern Daniel, who worked with teachers and students. We selected 9 interdisciplinary teachers and hosted a kickoff event in teacher training where students and teachers started planning curriculum ideas. And then throughout the rest of the year, we created multiple curriculum drafts and got feedback from students as well as teachers and our program partners, including California Global Education Project. Now, in year two, we hired 3 high school interns, 1 from each school, me included. Our teachers have been piloting their curriculum in classrooms, and we have been gathering survey results with us surveys that we co-designed with a lot of positive feedback from students regards the curriculum. We're also coordinating the clean energy career guest speakers to come to each of our schools to talk about student input every step of the way. Here, as you can see, here are some of our next steps. And lastly, here's a testimonial from a teacher at Bonita Vista High School, the school that I go to. And thank you, and let us know if you have any questions.
It's an invitation to my colleagues. Any questions?
I have a question.
Please.
What grade are you?
I'm a senior.
Oh, great. Well, congratulations. And is this part of your project? Did you come up with it?
The curriculum?
Yeah, or yeah, the whole project, I guess, or
Oh.
350.
No, I'm a paid intern here at San Diego 350, and we work alongside a lot of teachers to make this curriculum possible for students because we believe that our education is a critical point for our future since, you know, we are the next generation and we want students to have these resources and opportunities available.
Do you think that the experience has, are you going to go into STEM or do you want to go into clean energy now?
Yes, I do. I want to go into environmental law.
Oh,
Yeah.
Awesome.
awesome.
¿Creciste en Tijuana?
¿Mande?
¿Creciste en Tijuana?
Sí, yo crecí en Tijuana.
¿Y ahorita vives en Tijuana o aquí?
No, vivo acá, me emigré.
If you're looking for an intern, will you a paid internship? Would you get a hold of me, please?
Of course, yeah. I can help
I want a fronterizo who speaks English, Spanish, and we have a lot of big environmental issues in the South Bay.
And you're that generation, like we need more of you out there.
Por supuesto.
No,
es
gracias.
un
No,
placer.
a ti. No, gracias.
Director Nzinza is stealing our best,
I am.
San Diego Community Power's best interns.
Chula Vista doesn't mess around.
You know, okay. Any other questions?
I just wanted to say thank
Sean,
you.
you can't hire her.
I know. It's a good move. Just thank you for your participation in ST350 generally, and particularly with this program. It's super, super important. It's extremely important that there's representation from the South Bay and from folks with more diverse experiences. And I think ST350 has made a lot of strides over the last several years of recognizing the need to be more inclusive, and you are a demonstration of why that is so beneficial. So thank you for that. My only feedback is that you're not the next generation. You are present in the work that you're doing. You don't need to wait to have an impact. You're having an impact now, and just keep that in mind, okay?
Thank you so much. I appreciate
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Karen, do we have any further? Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you both. That was exciting. Just on our food co-op, I'm really excited about that. I'll drive far to go to the OB food co-op. So now I have somewhere else to drive to check out. So thank you. Okay.
It's worth the drive, believe me.
Yes, it is.
Absolutely. You know, I just want to say, you know, in general, thanks to the grants, you know, it makes a huge impact in my community to have Suncoast there. You know, I've talked to Kim for years about this, and you know, when you talk about full circle, when I was a high schooler, we had a natural food store almost in the exact same location that Suncoast is. But I look at the high schoolers who come out and think of that, and you look at the good that these grants do, from education to actually having a big impact in building something in the community. So I'm so thankful for staff and for the hard work that gets done for this. I'm looking forward to the next few cycles and building different communities in different areas. And I agree with member Ela Rivera that this is a current generation that builds for tomorrow. So thanks for all you do.
For sure. Okay, this is a receive and file. So now we move along.
Madam Chair, we didn't have any public comments for this item.
No public comments. Thank you. Okay, moving along, we now move to item 16. And this is consider and approve the appointment of Sarita Santos. Yes, Sarita Santos. Okay, to the Community Advisory Committee to fill the National City vacancy. Please go ahead.
Great. So again, my name is Xiomara Crespo, Senior Community Engagement Manager, and per Community Powers Joint Powers Authority Agreement, the board established a Community Advisory Committee comprised of non-board members to advise the board and provide a venue for ongoing citizen support and engagement in our strategic direction, goals, and programs. The Community Advisory Committee is advisory only and does not have decision-making authority, nor receives any delegation or of authority from the board. The Community Advisory Committee includes 2 members, as I said, from each member agency. In terms of the selection process, each board director may nominate a committee member, and the board shall determine the final selection by a simple majority vote. When considering appointments, the board of directors should seek to ensure that the CAC represents a diverse cross-section of interest and skill sets, and should prioritize members when feasible from diverse social, economic, and racial backgrounds that are representative of all residents within the service territory of Community Power. In December 2025, staff announced a CAC vacancy for the city of National City. Since staff promoted the vacancy via social media, the board of directors, the CAC, directly engaging with member agency staff and the public, and worked with Director Yamani to review the process and determine a nomination for appointment based on the CAC membership terms and criteria, as well as the pool of applicants. Director Yamani has nominated Zoraida Santos. Zoraida has an extensive background in financial services, risk mitigation, and banking operations. She holds a Doctor of Education in Leadership and Management from Drexel University and serves in the Parks, Recreation, and Senior Citizen Advisory Committee of the City of National City. We thank Zoraida for joining us today and for her interest in this role, and she's present here with us today. If approved by the board with a simple majority vote, staff will work with the representative to conduct their oath of office and onboarding prior to the next CAC meeting, which will be taking place March 12th, 2026. Staff will also update the roster on Community Power's website to include the new representative, and CAC seats for Encinitas and Imperial Beach remain vacant. That concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any public comments on this item?
We do not, Madam Chair.
Okay, any questions or comments from my board colleagues?
Through the chair, since Ms. Zoraida Santos is here, may we ask for her to approach, please?
What a great idea.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's nice to meet you. I really am so grateful for the opportunity. It's as a Latina from an underserved background and a community that doesn't have as much access, it's a privilege to be here today.
Thank you, Ms. Santos, for your volunteerism. Thank you. And we appreciate your time of helping us help our community. Thank you, ma'am.
you.
With that said, Madam Chair, I move to approve the nomination.
Second. What a race in Zunzai.
I know, I'm giving this one to Director Suzuki. Someone else gonna get to. So we have a motion on the floor by Vice Chair Imani and a second by Director Suzuki.
Director Rivera.
Yeah.
Yes.
Director Fisher,
Aye.
Director Insunza,
Yes.
Director San Antonio, Director Suzuki,
Aye.
Vice Chair Yamani,
Aye.
Chair Lasso Reimer.
Yes.
It carries, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you all very much.
Thank you, Ms. Shumalis, for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We now move to item 17, amendment of the fiscal year 2025-2026 operating budget, the fiscal year 2025-2026 capital budget, and the 2026-30 capital investment plan. Our CEO, Karen Burns, will introduce this item and then turn it over to Tim Maligmat, Director of Finance, and Chris Doe, Senior Financial Analyst. Please.
Thank you. As some of you may know, we recently received the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award from the Government Finance Officers Association, or the GFOA. Community Power's fiscal year 2026 budget book was recognized for its clarity, accessibility, and comprehensiveness. This achievement reflects Community Power's dedication to fiscal stability, transparency, and responsible financial management. It is a testament to the efforts of our finance team to strengthen our financial position and seek to generate cost savings as we continue to provide the San Diego region with clean energy at the greatest possible value. This item, in addition to the prepaid bond we discussed earlier, demonstrate Community Power's firm commitment to customer affordability, fiscal stability, and financial transparency. Tim, I'll turn it over to you and your team and Chris to present this item. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair Lawson Reamer, Vice Chair Yamani, Board of Directors. For the record, my name is Timothy Mangelmott, Director of Finance, and I have the pleasure of presenting in front of you today an item for approval for an amendment to our FY 25-26 operating budget, capital budget, and our FY 26-30 CIP. As a finance professional, this is my favorite item as a budget, believe it or not. But internally, whenever the finance team leads a budget process, including an amendment, we always have internal principles that we try to follow. Fiscal responsibility, a focus on organizational sustainability. We always strive to have stable, competitive rates with a customer first focus whenever we do a budget. The budgets also take a lot of work, so I do want to take a quick moment just to thank staff across the agency who did a lot of work to ensure that we're bringing forth a good, prudent budget for our taxpayers and for the community. Just by way of quick background, per our JPA, Community Power's fiscal year starts on July 1st, and so we adopt our fiscal year budget on June of every year. One of the things we also do typically in every year is in January, the board also adopts a rate item that adjusts Community Power's rates in January of every year. And then this budget amendment is always a follow-on to that rate setting cycle in which we adjust our revenue and expense appropriation to align with the rate item that's typically approved in January of every year. So what are we bringing forth in this year's mid-year budget review? So again, last month, the board did adopt Community Power's largest discount in the history of the agency. So there was a 4% power on discount, a 10% power-based discount. And those two discounts for our ratepayers are baked into this year's mid-year budget review. One of the things we did also too is we did look kind of internally at the costs that we have direct control over. So we wanted to make sure we delivered a prudent, cost-efficient budget for our ratepayers for the items that are under our control. And so we are proposing to reduce our non-energy budget, again, which is under our direct control, by $4.3 million through this mid-year budget review. All in all, that's to say we do project that this year's budget will end the fiscal year with 229 days cash on hand, which would allow us to achieve that 225 days cash on hand reserve target that the board adopted in December 2025. So in terms of some actual details here, you'll see the revenue appropriation change where we're adjusting that revenue down. Similarly, we're proposing to increase the expense appropriation slightly due to some increases, mainly in cost of energy that the board considered last month as part of that rate adoption. And then all in all, we are proposing a slight reduction to our net position to the fiscal year at about $32.5 million. Although all in all, we still do plan to achieve, per our projections, that 225 days cash on hand target, even with this budget amendment and that reduction to net position. I mentioned reserves. So in terms of reserves, the board does have in its packet our treasurer's report through November 2025. In that treasurer's report, you'll see that we have achieved 203 days cash on hand. With this budget amendment, we do anticipate achieving that 225 days cash on hand target in December 2025, which is kind of weird to say because it's kind of in the past. It's just that December 2025 financial statement will hit your packets next month. And this budget does anticipate kind of maintaining that 225 days cash on hand threshold throughout the end of the fiscal year. And with that, Chair, I will turn over to Chris Doe to walk over the remainder of the details. Thanks.
Good afternoon, Chair Les Reamer and the rest of the board of directors. My name is Chris Doe, Senior Finance Analyst at San Diego Community Power, and I have the pleasure of presenting some of the slides here for the budget amendment. On this slide here, as Tim mentioned earlier, we had a $4.3 million reduction in discretionary spending. Things are in direct control and operating budget. There are a couple other things that are under our control as well. Also highlighted, it's a $0.3 million CIP reduction. This was mainly due to contract negotiations for our ERP platform that we presented, and it was approved last month. It was a fixed fee contract, so we can realize some savings there. I'm happy to say that there are no cuts to any community benefit from the programs. I want to emphasize that this is purely for operational projects internally. And then I would also point out debt service was also reduced by $0.4 million, and that's just reduction in usage on our line of credit. And then drilling down to non-energy costs, general administration specifically went down $1.2 million. General administration, our day-to-day operations, shows our fiscal control over the things that we've done as staff has looked to cut spending there and realize savings. And then professional services, we realized a $1.5 million reduction. A large sum of that was through some hard contract negotiations with our data manager. The majority of that was with Calpine, and that was about $1 million in savings just from that one contract negotiation. And then we get into personnel costs. So in this proposed budget amendment, we are asking to have 9 additional FTEs or staff added to our current hiring plan, but we also emphasize that 4 are cost recoverable. So with that being said, 103 total FTE, with 12 FTE being cost recoverable. You would also point out that we are reducing our overall dollars from 21.1 million to 19.6 million. So the dollar value is actually going, the dollar expenses are actually going down. And that's mostly due to thoughtful hiring and then partially due to the 218 agreement, savings from Social Security tax from the employee tax portion. So with the increased headcount that we're proposing, we wanted to see where we stacked up against relative agencies and other CCAs. And so I would like to emphasize that Community Power has a robust programs offering and also a large customer load, which makes us somewhat unique compared to the other CCAs. But as you see, our headcount is rightly aligned with CCAs with large program departments and also with large customer loads. And then we also look at our overall budget compared to the other CCAs. And we are rightly aligned, being the second largest CCA by customer account, with our second largest cost of energy, overall leading to the second largest budget overall. But as you can see, if you look at our non-energy costs, we're actually on the lower end and lower range from our discretionary spending and our fiscal responsibility. And that will conclude my presentation. I'll turn it back over to Tim. Thanks, Chair. That actually concludes the presentation, Chair. We'll open up for questions. Thanks.
Okay, thank you so much. I actually have a couple of questions. This is really for Karen, just to better understand. If you could kind of talk us through how our programs and operations are driving the need for more FTEs.
So we have growth in a number of areas. One area in particular within Community Power is around infrastructure. So we are building and scaling our IT infrastructure. You've seen contracts come for the EDP, the Enterprise Data Platform, the CRM, the Customer Relationship Management System, the ERP, the Enterprise Resource Platform, and a lot of areas just around IT, cybersecurity, and infrastructure. That's been part of our strategic plan. So we're scaling in that area. And that's where we have quite a few positions. We also are hiring in on the REN side of the business. So the San Diego REN, those are cost recoverable positions, all of them. This year, as we talked about in the staff report, we'll be launching all 10 programs. And so we need program managers and support, not only in the REN for program management, but also within the different departments. That may be marketing, that may be finance, that may be other areas, IT, where we need support because the REN sort of overlays on San Diego Community Power.
That makes sense. I love of course, the cost recoverable positions.
Me too.
I like those ones the best. So I'm very supportive of all that. I think just be helpful to better understand kind of at core the scaling of the IT infrastructure, why it's so essential for our operations.
Why it's so essential?
Yeah.
Well, it's very essential because, as we mentioned, I think it was even our last board meeting, for example, in our finance team, we're still working on spreadsheets. We're $1 billion agency, and we're having to do all kinds of manual processes involving spreadsheets. So an enterprise resource platform or ERP can really help create a single system that reduces error, that increases transparency, that enables us to receive, review, and then pattern the data that's coming in so we can make better decisions. So it supports decision-making, it supports transparency, it reduces errors. And that's the same with our data platform. We want to be able to have one big place where a data lake, where we can get all of the customer data coming in as well. And we can clean it, we can look at it, we can determine how best to target for different types of programs we might design, be those for our specific programs at Community Power, as well as for the REN, and then a customer relationship manager to make sure that we're managing all these relationships, we're keeping track of all this data. So,
thank you. And maybe just a word on kind of how you think about security as you integrate all this data.
Yes, it's top of mind, it's front and center. Our associate director of IT has been, actually, those are some of the asks he has in the hiring plan, or to hire more folks for our cybersecurity team. We do have security team in place. We do a lot of training around cybersecurity. We are aware that we could be a target, and the bigger we get, the more reserves we have, the more likely we are to be a target. So we're keenly aware of that, and we're taking steps every day to ensure that our systems are not hacked, to ensure that folks are not clicking on phishing emails that could lead to challenges. And we're doing a lot of things on the IT side.
Thank you. Do my colleagues have any questions on this item?
Comment, when is our rental going to expire? I'm looking at that item and Madam CEO.
Yeah, through the chair, I could answer that. Just Director Yamani, just to clarify, you mean that for our office space?
Yes.
Yeah, so the office space has, I think, has an option for one more year. And then I think at that time, then Karen and Jack are going to reevaluate options.
I see. Thank you, Madam Chair.
We're already looking at our options.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Other questions? Please.
I just have a quick comment. I'm fairly new to the board and I'm always amazed how much we see Tim and Chris up here presenting and I think that's an important part to always talk about financials, but to see that that the San Diego Community Power can be doing more during this budget cycle with less is pretty amazing and hard to do. So I can't say more, to appreciate what you're doing, because again, it ultimately comes down to saving more money for our ratepayers. And I think that's an important part of it. So again, thanks for all you do and keep pushing.
Madam Chair, I was going to say I sharpened those pencils. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Do we have any public comment, Mari?
We do not, Madam Chair.
Okay. We do need a motion on this item. So
Second.
we have a motion from Director Nzunza and a second from Director Suzuki. Mari, please call the roll.
Director Elo Rivera,
Yes.
Director Fisher,
Aye.
Director Insunza,
Yes.
Director San Antonio, Director Suzuki,
Aye.
Vice Chair Yamani,
Aye.
Chair Lassen Reimer.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Okay. We now go on to item number 19, adopt resolution 2026-04, authorizing execution of the application and agreement for Social Security coverage. Chandra? Hi, please go
Hi.
ahead.
Okay. Good afternoon, Board of Directors. My name is Chandra Pugh. I'm the Senior Director of People Operations for Community Power. As many of you know, Community Power and employees have been contributing to Social Security since the agency's inception. In 2021, a 401(a) plan was established to which Community Power contributes an amount equal to 10% of the employee's salary for the employee's benefit. We believe strongly in supporting our employees to prepare and plan for their financial future. So in order for us to continue to support that, we want to make sure that we had a Section 218 agreement in place with the Social Security Administration in order to cover former, present, and future employees. In California, the Section 218 agreement is administered through CalPERS, and initial board approval was provided on August 28th, 2025, to hold the election, which was held February 6th of 2026. Approval of a final board resolution is required to establish the Section 218 agreement. And so I am requesting your approval to the recommendation.
Okay. Any public comment?
None, Madam Chair.
Any questions from any of my colleagues or any comments? Okay, this does need a motion.
I move to adopt the resolution.
Okay. We have a motion. Do we have a second? Okay. We have a motion and a second. Please call the roll.
Director Elo Rivera, Director Fisher,
Aye.
Director Insunza, Director San Antonio, Director Suzuki,
Aye.
Vice Chair Yamani,
Aye.
Chair Lassen Reimer.
Okay, thank you so much. We now go on to item 20. Oh, they said I didn't vote. Aye.
Motion carries, Madam
Sorry.
Chair.
We now move on to item 20, adopt resolution number 2026-05, amending inclusive and sustainable workforce policy and also updating energy proposal evaluation criteria. And I will turn it over to our CEO, Karen Burns, to introduce the item.
Thank you. On November 20th of 2025, the board, upon the recommendation of our board chair, Supervisor Lawson Reimer, and board director, Sean Elo Rivera, directed staff to revisit and enhance Community Power's policies and evaluation of long-term contracts to strengthen the workforce standards in new renewable energy and battery storage procurement agreements. The updated policies and evaluation criteria presented to you tonight mean workplace training and safety commitments will be considered alongside price, environmental benefits, and reliability when the agency evaluates project proposals. I'd like to thank the staff and our partners for the thoughtful and collaborative work that went into the development of the recommendation before you tonight. With that, I'll turn this item over to Andrea Torres, our Director of Origination.
Good evening, everyone. Chair Lawson Raymer, Board of Directors. Apparently I got the memo about clothing, attire, color.
Thank
today.
you, thank you.
That's right. Yes, as Karen said, just to recap that we did receive this directive back in November, and with some more specifics, it asked us to include, to the extent feasible, changes that include a quantitative scoring mechanism for workforce commitment specifically, prevailing wage provisions or federal Davis-Bacon wage provisions where there's not prevailing wage law, use of a skilled and trained workforce, and that really covers a lot of the apprenticeship requirements and experience and standards for that. Local hire commitments for projects that are local to San Diego County. Use of union maintenance agreements once after the project's constructed through its operations. It as well as additional or modified PLA requirements, project labor agreement requirements, including a consideration of a requirement for all utility scale projects. It also included a requirement to look into how we would negotiate a PLA for all projects developed and owned directly by Community Power, after which time we'd return to the board for review and final approval. And then use of best value procurement where feasible. So after extensive outreach with trade organizations, industry stakeholders, and peer CCAs, the following few slides will cover recommended changes to 2 policy documents that are related to this effort. The first of which is the Inclusive and Sustainable Workforce Policy, or ISWP. The ISWP covers a broad range of scope for Community Power's commitments on the workforce front. And that includes those that govern how we evaluate and procure renewable energy and capacity, whether that's through power purchase agreements or in the event we choose as an organization to own these assets directly. Therefore, the proposal is to further enhance the workforce criteria that is communicated in our solicitations, the information we collect from developers to ensure that we're properly scoring based on this new criteria. It codifies the use of the Energy Proposal Evaluation Criteria, or EPEC. That's the other document I'll be going in more detail in a following slide. And the EPEC is used when we evaluate these new build long-term contracts. So the proposed changes to the ISWP would make clear that higher rankings are given to proposals that meet or exceed various criteria, including those commitments that I listed on the prior slide. Further, the modifications dictate that a PLA is required for all utility scale solar, wind, and battery storage projects, project construction in particular. The purposes of this policy, for the purposes of this policy, utility scale can have lots of different definitions depending on what venues and where you are in the country. But for the purposes of this policy, the utility scale is defined as having capacity of 10 megawatts or greater. And finally, while we don't currently own any energy or storage assets, but if and when we do, the policy commits us to engaging with the San Diego Building and Construction Trades Council, the California Unions for Reliable Energy, and other stakeholders for input on workforce standards. And that may include PLA requirements applied to the project. So the EPEC is that other document I was referring to that's now more directly tied to the Inclusive and Sustainable Workforce Policy. So there have been and will still be 6 categories of criteria that are covered in the EPEC, of which workforce standards is one of them. So on the left-hand side is the existing criteria to earn a given ranking, which notably at the top, maybe a little hard to read, but it does not require a PLA, but it does award the highest rank of A if you do commit to a PLA. Following that are lower ranks. With the B rank is earned by committing to at least 50% union labor. And then the criteria kind of lessen as you go on with, you may not meet 50% union labor criteria, but you will meet a number of other criteria in the sustainable workforce policy. So what we're proposing to do here is to break out the criteria between utility scale versus community scale, incorporate that PLA requirement for 10 megawatts and above within the EPEC for solar, wind, and battery storage. And then allow community solar projects to earn high ranks by committing to a PLA or a set of other workforce criteria. And we're more prescriptive about that in these modifications. Oops, sorry. So this table has a lot of text, but I'm just going to orient you to sections that I had in bold, and I'll try to make this as concise as possible. So on the left-hand side is the utility scale. Right-hand side is what we're calling community scale for those under 10 megawatt projects. We make this distinction because we want to do more at the community scale in the coming months and years to encourage more growth and more engagement in the sector to develop that robust distributed generation portfolio, that 300 megawatt target that was called out earlier. And because of that, in addition, community scale also is a real opportunity for small businesses and diverse business entities to participate in the procurement process to meet these goals. But in any case, we will still incentivize material workforce commitments for those that are not committing to a PLA. Notably on the left, in the upper left, utility scale projects still earn a rank of A if it employs a PLA, but as stated before, it does clarify that it's a requirement for those utility scale sectors. And that we really did that in part because this sector is a more mature market. And in our experience and research, PLAs for those kind of what I call bread and butter resources of solar and storage and wind are already kind of broadly applied in the market as a proven standard for quality projects. Following an A ranking, proposals for utility scale projects that are the non-solar, wind, and storage require, in order to earn a B ranking, you would need to commit to prevailing wages, a skilled and trained workforce, and does at least 2 of 3 commitments that are prescribed here. So those 3 commitments could be 50% union labor, 80% local labor, or using union maintenance agreements. An A B score is the same for the B score, it's the same criteria, except you just use one of those 2 criteria. On the right, it's a very similar structure for community scale. However, such projects can earn the A ranking by either doing a PLA or those other criteria that are listed for utility scale that get a B score. And it similarly cascades down from there. We do have a unique provision for this D score, where if you don't meet any of those requirements, but the developer has local offices hiring local workforce, it's just an acknowledgement that are inherent in a locally sited business. So really, this work took a lot of effort, a lot of collaboration, a lot of communication with all stakeholders. And overall, whether it's in our sustainable workforce policy, our EPEC, our solicitation materials, we will be emphasizing our prioritization of the highest of workforce standards, and will engage on workforce topics early in the negotiation projects with all developers. That concludes my presentation. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. Let me just start with just a couple remarks. First of all, thank you to the team. I know when I brought this forward, I think that we were clear that this is a moral and ethical priority for our community, but I also knew it would be a lot of tough work from the team to get this right. So I really appreciate all the work and all the details and all the thinking that went into this, and also to our partners. One of them who is not here today, but Carol Kim, who I know is, hi, Carol. Thank you, Carol, for your hard work. Really appreciate the partnership. So again, thank you everybody. I think this is just so critical. I think we all are well aware that Community Power has now matured into $1 billion institution, but our workforce policies just had not been updated in the last 5 years. And I think this new workforce policy sets us up to lead the way as an agency, as an organization, to a high road clean energy future where affordable clean energy and good jobs go hand in hand. So I know that if we're going to successfully transition our grid to a clean energy grid and build out the renewable projects that our planet and our community deserves, they have to be built safely, they have to be built on time, and they have to be built in a way that respects the folks that are doing the work, and treats them with dignity and respect. So these kinds of project labor agreements, the prevailing wage, skilled labor, local hire, long-term maintenance agreements, workforce training, this is all really, really vital. I think the only question I had, or the only ask is, as we move forward, as Community Power moves forward with this new policy, I'd like to ask staff to keep the board updated on how we're doing, and it would be helpful to get an annual report back on our executed agreements and summaries of the workforce commitments. So if that's something we can do as we adopt this, that would be great. And I'll be happy to move the item with that. So second, okay. Any of my colleagues?
Madam Chair, we have public comments.
Okay, thank you. Any of my colleagues have any comments on this item? Okay, Director Fisher.
Thanks, Sherry. This is, I think, the second or third time we've seen this, and I've tried to be more constructive this time around. I appreciate staff to spend a lot of time with me and going over stuff. I think I'm in favor of some of the things that are mentioned here. I think it's important that since we are in a military town and community, that we look at some type of action that helps give a higher ranking for those who do hire from our veterans, because they do face some challenges in the workforce. And I'm going to read this because staff was kind enough to help me work through this. And I just would like to make a friendly amendment to the inclusive and sustainable workforce policy, which is item 20, Exhibit A, specifically to Section 2, and add a number 7, which would be our proposed by contractors certified as disabled veteran businesses, enterprises, or businesses of persons with disabilities by the supplier clearinghouse, or certifies as a small business by the California Department of General Services, or commits to including subcontractors with businesses meeting these criteria. So hate to read stuff, but I'm not that smart when it comes to these things, and I appreciate staff. I just feel it's important to have some criteria that does.
Could you just read it one more time just so everyone can catch it?
Sure.
For the amendment, the language of the amendment.
Yep, absolutely. So this would be an addition number. It ends in 6 in Section 2, to add another one, which would be a 7th bullet point. It says, are proposed by contractors certifies as disabled veteran business enterprises or businesses of persons with disabilities by the supplier clearinghouse, or certified as a small business by the California Department of General Services, or commits to including subcontractors with businesses meeting these criteria.
Thank you. And that would be as a preference in the criteria. Is that kind of how this would work?
Yeah,
along with those others.
Just as another scoring criteria.
Understood. Any questions from my colleagues for Director Fisher, or comments on this item of any kind? Sorry, go ahead.
I do have comments. I don't know if you wanted a public comment first and then are the rest of our comments, or
as you wish.
Okay.
Your choice.
I don't want to get in the way of the amendment that's put forward, so I'll.
You'll wait. Okay,
yeah.
sounds good. We have a motion on the floor that does not yet have a second and an amendment to that motion. I'm inclined to take the amendment, but I do want to hear public comment first. So. Okay. The amendment. Okay, so, okay, let me just, I'm inclined to take it, but I do want to hear public comment first. So why don't we move to public comment?
First, we'll call Cristina Marquez. Cristina, you have 3 minutes to address the board.
Hello. It's on. Hello. Okay. Thank you. Good evening, Chair Lawson Reamer and esteemed SDCP board members. Cristina Marquez speaking on behalf of 3,700 power professionals and union electricians of IBEW Local 569 in San Diego and Imperial counties. We urge you to support approving these updates to the inclusive and sustainable workforce policy, which includes requirements for a project labor agreement negotiated with the San Diego County Building and Construction Trades Council. Our agreements include local hire provisions that will put local workers who live, work, and pay taxes across San Diego County to work on our region's projects. It keeps those valuable dollars in our communities. It would provide opportunities for targeted recruitment for apprenticeship programs. Apprenticeships start with a job and lead to quality middle-class careers in the construction industry. I know firsthand because I've benefited from being an apprentice. We also target veterans, and we have a program, at least for the electricians, called Helmets to Hard Hats. So that's definitely a high priority. And in our project labor agreements, it includes helmets to hard hats. Our agreements include provisions that provide full family health care and retirement benefits for all construction workers on covered projects. For many construction workers, these agreements will provide these life-changing benefits for themselves and their families and create family legacies for generations. Let's make the big moves, make SDCP or Community Power a leader for California again. If these are passed, it could be some of the strongest workforce language in California, and you guys would make me proud. Thank you very much. I urge you to vote yes.
Thank you very much.
We have Matthew Leiva Gonzalez. Please approach the podium.
Good afternoon, Honorable Chair, board members. My name is Matthew Leiva Gonzalez. I'm the business representative for the San Diego Building and Construction Trades Council. We're the umbrella organization for all 22 industrial construction craft unions and over 35,000 hardworking, skilled and trained men and women of the San Diego area. I'm a proud third-generation union member and a veteran myself. Like my sister Marquez just stated, there's a numerous variety of aspects of these PLAs. I'm just going to touch on one. The general being phenomenal pay, benefits, and a pension. I'm just going to touch on the one aspect that I always like highlighting, and it's the local hire. So how that works is individuals that live within a particular area code, and wherever the project is located, they go through that area code and they fill these projects with individuals from the community. What this does is construction workers take pride in what they do, and they cosmetically change the neighborhood, the environment. When they're working within their neighborhoods, changing their neighborhoods, they reinvest back into the community. Their hard-earned dollars remain in the community. They also don't have to worry about long commutes and being stuck in traffic, which means they have more time to spend with their family, volunteer for Little League, T-ball, whatever it may be. And it just helps for these individuals that are working so hard every day to have a better quality of life. And I strongly urge you to continue to support PLA. Thank you, everyone.
Next, we have Carol Kim.
was waiting to see if it was going to move. Sometimes it does. Good afternoon, Community Power Board members. My name is Carol Kim, and I'm the business manager of the San Diego County Building and Construction Trades Council. I rise today to speak in support of the proposed amendments to the Inclusive Sustainable Workforce Policy, also known as the ISWP, and the updates to the Energy Proposal Evaluation Criteria, EPEC. I'm going to shorten those, so I'm just going to say those that way because I've mentioned them multiple times. I'm a person who was involved in conversations about and advocated for standing up a CCA in San Diego County back when community power was just a twinkle in the eye of policymakers and environmental and labor advocates more than a decade ago. That was back when conversations about a San Diego CCA started. There was generally a shared vision of a progressive and inclusive model that would prioritize not just the environmental and sustainability concerns, that is the raison d'etre of all of this, but also would uplift the economic needs of working people who make up the base of the very communities that community power was supposed to serve. The vision was to ensure that the operationalization of community power's primary functions would be leveraged to ensure the strongest job quality standards and workforce development opportunities for those communities who are funding or hosting the sustainable energy projects that would produce the power being procured by community power. When the job quality standards are strong enough to be union quality job standards, the people who are working on building or operating those power plants and related infrastructure are likely to be in family sustaining middle-class jobs with benefits like pensions for secure retirement, full family health, dental, and vision benefits, and that result not just in the sustainable energy and healthier planet, but it results also in a more economically sustainable families and healthier communities too. So the amendments presented before you today for the ISWP and updates in the EPEC feel to me like that original vision is finally being codified in policy and coming to life through practice. I'd like to commend the hard and conscientious work that was done by your staff, Gordon Samuel, Andrea Torres, and of course, Ashley Rodriguez as well. Their work is setting a powerful standard and marking the community power as a leader, which other CCAs across the state and the country will look to for the best ways to ensure that CCA investments are doing more than just procuring energy, that they are building a more economic future, a more sustainable and better economic future for working people everywhere. The project labor agreement for the community power owned construction and development, as well as the many job quality standards woven into the EPEC, will facilitate high quality, sustainable energy sources and jobs for communities all over. So I do want to note that these policies are not finished yet. There's some additional work to be done to ensure that the policies are fully fleshed out to be operationalized and implemented well. But we at the San Diego Building Trades Council are here to partner with community power and continue partnering to do that work, including negotiating a PLA that works for working people. And overall, the work that has been done to this point has been exceptional, and I urge your approval for this item, which will move community power forward in delivering on its early and ongoing promise to uplift working communities everywhere and strengthen every community that it touches while delivering affordable, clean energy to the San Diego region. Thank you.
Marco Briones, please approach the podium.
Good afternoon, Chair, board members. Good to see a lot of you all on this board. My name is Marco Briones. I am the political director of the San Diego and Imperial Counties Labor Council. We represent proudly 130 unions, 200,000 working families across our region. And we echo the support for this, as for all the reasons that our building trades brothers and sisters actually noted here, and commend and support community power for these new workforce standards. We want to thank you for prioritizing quality jobs for skilled and trained workers, which we can attest are jobs that change lives. These are careers that people can be proud of. And this kind of commitment from you all signals a clear intent to uplift workers across the sectors that you all work in. So we once again, thank you. We look forward to partnering with you all well into the future. Thank you very much.
David Cepeda.
Good evening, board members. My name is David Cepeda. I'm a painter by trade and a proud member of Local 1399, where I represent over 1,000 glazers, painters, drywall finishers, floor layers, and trade show workers. I urge you to support approving these updates to the inclusive and sustainable workforce policy, which includes requirements for a project labor agreement negotiated with the San Diego County Building and Construction Trades Council. Our agreements include local hire, livable wages, and benefits to all people. I'm here because I believe in a PLA. My family and I have benefited from a PLA. It has allowed me to earn livable wages, purchase my own house, have top-notch health care for me and my whole family, and also to look forward to a pension, 15 more years in counting. So again, in closing, I ask you that you support investing in our local skilled and trained workforce and vote in support of this PLA with the San Diego Building and Construction Trades Council. Thank you. Good evening.
Diego Espinosa.
Good afternoon. My name is Diego Espinosa. I'm from local 1399 here in San Diego, representing 1,000 members. Just want to reiterate what my coworker said concerning disabled veterans, especially because San Diego is very in the, how do you say, coming from a Navy station, Army. So we provide outreach for those small business, disabled veterans, women-owned business, if they come from the military and they're women. So we push that and we help them outreach to get their business going. And also we, if they don't want to, they want to come through an apprenticeship, we always cater them first because, you know, they gave so much for our country. Of course, we're going to have open doors for them. So I just want to reiterate that and I'm supportive of the PLA because of that. Thank you.
Lastly, we have Serena Pelka online. Serena, please go ahead. You have 3 minutes to address the board.
Hi, good evening. This is Serena Pelka from Climate Action Campaign, where we're fighting for a 100% clean, affordable, and reliable energy future. We're calling in tonight to express our support for this important item as Community Power considers expanding these critical workforce commitments and standards. We need local, clean energy in our region that brings good jobs for hardworking families in San Diego. In this update, we're excited to see all of the updates and a PLA requirement for all utility scale solar, wind, battery storage projects. We need these local clean energy solutions in our region to bring down costs and reduce pollution, and including local hire provisions that support hardworking families in our communities is essential. As we heard from the experts in the room, these agreements provide life-changing benefits for construction workers that are transformative for quality of life. We want these opportunities to reach our communities, and we want affordable, renewable energy to be accessible for every family in our region. We appreciate Community Power's commitment to ongoing engagement with the stakeholders in the room and including environmental organizations. We urge the board to support investing in our local skilled and trained workforce, and we urge you to vote in support of this item tonight. Thank you.
No more, Madam Chair.
More comments? Okay, thank you very much. After hearing public comment, I do think we should go with your amendment. So I think this is now, we have a motion on the floor that's been amended and that has a second. And I know that Director Elo Rivera had some comments.
Thank you so much, Chair. First, thank you for your partnership on working to bring this here today. Thank you, Karen, and the San Diego Community Power team, Gordon, Sandra, Ashley. Thank you all for your work. And then obviously Carol and everyone at the trades for your partnership as well. I think that today is actually a really important moment for this agency in terms of our maturation and growing into the agency that we can and should be in the future. There's oftentimes a false narrative when it comes to clean energy that we have to choose between uplifting workers, benefiting communities, or providing clean, affordable energy. It is a false choice, and I think we're demonstrating that with today's action. So as we move toward a 100% renewable future, we must make sure we are not only building a clean energy, we're building a fair energy economy. The policy in front of us moves us in that direction. It prioritizes high road labor standards, local hire and targeted hire strategies, apprenticeship utilization, and workforce equity and inclusion. Because I always think it's important to, not just use lingo. What does that actually mean? It means that we're going to be maximizing the local benefits of our investments. It means that we're going to be creating quality career pathways. It means that we're working to ensure that our future is better than our past. By updating our energy proposal evaluation criteria, we're making clear that strengthening workforce requirements is not just the right thing to do, it is smart policy that builds a skilled, reliable workforce, protects project quality, and ensures ratepayer dollars are invested in ways that benefit the local economy in the most holistic way possible. When we incentivize apprenticeship utilization, local hire, and skilled and trained workforce standards, we're investing in our region's workforce and our energy infrastructure. So, Matthew, thank you for the comments that you made in terms of some of the benefits of local hire. I actually think that that might be most important for an agency like ours that is working so hard to educate the community about the benefits of what we are aiming to do. And when we are going to be gaining advocates and messengers for the work that we are doing, who are exactly the type of folks that we want to be the messengers and advocates for the work that we are doing. And so that is just an added benefit here. And these standards ensure that clean energy transition does not leave behind the very workers and communities who have historically carried the burden of pollution and economic inequity. Strengthened workforce commitments help us build projects faster, operate them more reliably, and ensure our clean energy future is rooted in justice and shared prosperity. The clean energy future in our region will be built with good paying jobs, strong labor standards, and real opportunity for working families. I also wanted to note that while today's item does not establish a community benefits agreements framework, I see this as part of a larger conversation about how we can embed deeper enforceable community benefits into our clean energy investments moving forward. So I'm interested in continuing to learn more about how community benefit agreements, or CBAs, could potentially complement our workforce and procurement policies in the future. I'm very proud to support this item and look forward to continuing to align our climate goals with economic equity and workforce development. Thank you again, Chair, for your partnership, and I'm very, very supportive of what we're doing today.
Thank you very much. Director Nzunza.
I want to thank the representatives of the building trades, the Labor Council, Ms. Marquez, Councilmember Leyva, Ms. Kim, and especially our representatives and our workers from the local 1399, David and Diego. Because someone like me from the community I grew up in, my father's an Old Town National City kid. All my tios are all veterans, Purple Heart veterans, Korean War, Vietnam. And a lot of my family members didn't come home to work. Luckily, some of them were unionized workers at the Van Camp, Tuna, and in Barrio Logan, Our Lady of Guadalupe. Those are all the original OGs from National City, West Chula Vista, and Barrio Logan. And so I grew up in that environment. And it's what my family taught me. But to hear from Diego and David, to understand what's important to our communities, the communities that I grew up in, to do regional hires. Chula Vista just built the Gaylord, which is about 85-90% union jobs. Chula Vista is the fastest growing city in the county of San Diego, perhaps the entire state. We implemented PLAs because we have a responsibility to our citizens and our residents, the disenfranchised, and the working class, my communities, to ensure that they are getting those right benefits and pension and healthcare for their whole families. That's critically important. And I'm really proud in, the inception, we've only been around 4 or 5 years. I just jumped on board 15 months ago, but I'm very proud that the board of directors here has been historically pushing towards PLAs. And it's something we do that we're pushing in every single municipality in the county throughout our entire region. But it's important that we hear that. It's important that we hear from the workers, David and Diego. It's important to hear that. I was a painter all through college. Did it for all my neighbors and everything the best I could. But I understand that skill set. And it's difficult work. And you come back and you're all beat up and sore, and that goes on with trench workers, that goes with electricians and all the laborers. And that's something we have to always keep in mind as we're pushing forward, as we're building, as Community Power is building in Chula Vista and all over the South Bay and all over the county. It's important that we acknowledge these workers. And it's important that we acknowledge the workforce in San Diego County with some of the highest, I think we are the highest housing community in the state and perhaps the country now. is that we make sure that the sustainable living for unionized work. I appreciate all of you for being here tonight.
Thank you. Any other comments? Director Suzuki?
I also want to echo my fellow directors, thanking the union members for coming. I really appreciate hearing from the workers myself, because I think that's one of the luxuries that we have as elected officials, is getting to meet everybody and getting to hear from the people who are actually on the front lines. And I love Director Fisher's amendment, because I am a child. My father's a vet. My grandfather was a vet, and vets are all over our family tree is like, everybody served. So I'm just happy that we're all supporting each other, and I love that it's local. As the council member from La Mesa, we were the first to have a PLA, and I'm very proud of that, because I think that sometimes people forget that La Mesa was first, but I'm asserting that again, that La Mesa was first. Thank you.
Wait, when was La Mesa? Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Okay, we have a motion on the floor in a second. Mari, please call the roll.
Director Eloy Rivera,
Yes.
Director Fisher,
Aye.
Director Insunza,
Yes.
Director San Antonio, Director Suzuki,
Aye.
Vice Chair Yamani,
Aye.
Chair Lasso Reimer.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, and thank you for everyone's hard work. Okay, so now we go on to item number 21. And this item is the update on regulatory and legislative affairs. I'll turn it over to Karen, our CEO, Karen Burns.
I thank you. Next is our policy team's quarterly presentation to the board. This is part of our effort to keep you updated on California's ever-evolving energy policy landscape. Tonight, you'll hear about proactive efforts to engage and educate lawmakers to adopt 2 common-sense legislative reforms that support affordability and improve outcomes for our customers. I'm excited to share that one of the reforms is being authored by our former Vice Chair, Senator Steve Padilla, while another reform is being authored by a former board member of Sonoma Clean Power, Assemblymember Chris Rogers. Senator Padilla is authoring SB 1138 to create new ratepayer savings for resource adequacy compliance by allowing hourly trading of RA to coincide with hourly RA compliance obligations. Assemblymember Chris Rogers is authoring AB 1761 to improve transparency about how IOUs calculate the PCIA and to make sure we can directly and efficiently receive access to this information in a timely manner. You'll also hear about our work at the CPUC to ensure the success of the energy efficiency programs offered by the San Diego Regional Energy Network, how we're coordinating with our trade association, CalCCA, on behalf of our customers, and how our staff is working to ensure that as SDG&E seeks to roll out new smart meters, that we and our customers have access to the data to inform rates and program design. I'll now turn it over to Patrick Welsh and the regulatory and legislative team. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Patrick Welch, Associate Director of Legislative Affairs. Yes, you do see 4 of us here today. Yes, it is the last agenda item. We are going to do our best to be succinct for you and keep you up to date. I'm going to cover legislative update. I have 3 slides to get through, then I'm going to pass it over to my coworker, Aisha. As you may be well aware, the legislative session started back in January. We just passed the bill introduction deadline on February 20th. And bills must pass their House of Origin by May 29th and then be passed and sent to the governor by August 31st. So things are starting to rev up in Sacramento. There is a new leader in the state Senate today, this year, as well as a new chair of the Senate Energy Committee. So getting to understand what that means for the policy preferences in the Senate is something that we're working on right now. And then lastly on this slide, just wanted to cover that the state budget, that process is also underway. The state is predicting multi-year, multi-billion-dollar deficits up to $30 billion a year for the next 3 years. So in terms of looking for new resources from the state, they are very constrained right now. However, notwithstanding that, there is some money that the governor is proposing to put into clean energy. The most important of being is $322 million for public financing and transmission. Transmission has historically been financed by the investor-owned utilities, private dollars. There is a new movement now to try and invest public dollars at a lower cost to bring down those transmission costs for ratepayers. That money that the governor is proposing actually comes from Prop 4, the bond that was passed by voters, I think in November of 2024. There's also a one-time budget proposal for a new light duty incentive program to replace at a small scale the repeal of a federal tax credit for electric vehicles as well. A little more context, and I'm going to get into just some priorities that we're focusing on right now and some that Karen already mentioned. Just by way of background, the board has approved a policy platform. That is what we use to review legislation and other proposals. Just as the Power Services team uses their EPEC, we use this to review legislation. We'll be coming to you in the fall, probably with some proposed revisions to it to keep it fresh. The three core priorities of that document are accelerating deep decarbonization, promoting local development, and stabilizing community choice. Knowing and recognizing that affordability is really important, want to call out that affordability is really woven throughout that document. Probably one of the revisions we'll look at doing in the fall is making that even more robust. Our review process, again, incorporates doing an analysis of the bill, talking with our internal subject matter experts, and using that approved policy platform as a framework to analyze legislation. About 1,800 bills were introduced by February 20th. We're currently reviewing 126 of them. I expect that to grow because about 600 of those 1,800 bills were spot bills, so placeholders, so they'll be amended again the next 30 days with more substantive language. All right. What we are working on right now is really three core priority areas. Karen mentioned two of them: support for AB 1761. This is a Cal CCA sponsored bill to get us better data on the power charge and difference adjustment. It's something we have to fight over with SDG&E over 4 times a year. We think that data should be provided to us in a confidential way automatically so that we can better understand the PCI mechanics and identify any errors in the math. 2, we are supporting SB 1138, another Cal CCA sponsored bill that is going to align the resource adequacy slice of day program that we have to comply with, that under the current California PUC rules essentially requires our team to over procure energy in certain hours. This bill corrects that oversight. Back of the envelope estimated savings could have been $10.8 million for SDCP customers last year had this solution in this bill been in place. So really going to work on that from an affordability perspective. And then lastly, another priority we're working on is in this conversation about affordability and electric rates, really emphasizing the importance of community-driven energy efficiency and electrification solutions like those that will be offered by San Diego Regional Energy Network as ways to drive down bills while fighting climate change. So that wraps up my presentation on legislative issues, and going to pass it on to Aisha. I want to make one final comment before I do. You'll see on what's on the left of my screen is collateral, trying to summarize for folks in Sacramento everything that the agency is working on and that you've approved, and really also emphasizing your role as our governing body. That's something that's really important for us to uplift, that we as staff are as accountable to you. And that's something that we want to continue to message to folks in Sacramento, is that we want to be partners on policy, but we also want to maintain that local control as well, so we can design programs and do things like we just did with the prior agenda item to reflect what is needed in our community. So really wanted to highlight that importance in our advocacy as well. And with that, I'll pass it over to Aisha.
Thank you, Patrick. So I have 2 regulatory updates for you today, both related to energy efficiency. The first one relates to the general energy efficiency oversight proceeding that's occurring at the California Public Utilities Commission. This is where the CPUC sets policies that impact all portfolio administrators across the state, including the San Diego Regional Energy Network. So just to orient us to where we're at in this proceeding right now, the commission recently issued a staff proposal on viable electric alternatives. I'll briefly cover what that is in a moment. And so we commented on that. But why did we engage here? One of our policy platform priorities is to equitably accelerate deep decarbonization, including electrification of buildings. For the sake of time, I'm not going to cover the rest of the proceeding schedule, but as we engage, we'll return with updates on those comments. Okay, so what is a viable electric alternative? What is the staff proposal? So the CPUC is trying to move away from using ratepayer dollars to incentivize gas measures. And the way they're pursuing this is through introducing a 10-year plan to phase out ratepayer funded gas measures. So that was in December 2025. And so viable electric alternative is essentially just an electric technology that can replace gas appliances. And the way they determine if it's viable or not is through a cost benefit test. So if an electric technology has more benefits than costs in the gas measure, then it passes and it's viable. So I just wanted to go over the themes that we spoke to in our opening and reply comments. Overall, we're supportive of phasing out these gas energy efficiency incentives. However, the CPUC does need to refine it a bit to account for equity customers, essentially. We do start by saying that there are some customers, especially those in rural areas, such as agricultural customers and tribes, who will need extra assistance in decarbonizing and electrification. The other comments we make are that the proposed cost benefit test methodology that they're using doesn't fully account for benefits that matter for equity and hard to reach customers, such as improved indoor air quality, among many others. Second, one-time electrification costs like upgrading a panel or wiring should not count against whether a single appliance is viable. Things like electrification and panel upgrades, as we know, aren't just enabling the installation of an induction cook stove, but they're enabling numerous and electrical end uses. Next, the analysis should reflect real customer conditions and use California Energy Commission rate projections. The proposal as it stands is using inaccurate rates. And so when determining how viable an electric measure is, it's important to have an accurate insight into what those bill impacts will be. So we made comments there. And then also the CPUC often doesn't count savings that are associated with bringing a home that's below code up to code. And so we advocate that those should be counted. And then finally, this was a bit of an aside in the proposal, but the CPUC was interested in hearing from stakeholders on whether portfolio administrators such as SDREN should play a role in providing refrigerant leak detection and recycling pilots. And we say, yes, you should definitely allow portfolio administrators like SDREN to implement these pilots or full-fledged programs if they feel those are ready to go in their communities. All right, the next update I have to share with you relates to the San Diego Gas and Electric application to withdraw from Regional Energy Efficiency Program Administration. As a reminder, in April 2025, SDG&E filed this application to withdraw and close all of their regional energy efficiency programs, with the exception of their regional codes and standards program. We already did legal briefing on this, providing our legal interpretation if SDG&E is allowed to withdraw. And we just wrapped up the testimony phase of the proceeding where we weighed in on the merits of the policy and factual issues therein. I won't go through the rest of the schedule, but I will highlight by this summer, we will know if SDG&E is allowed to withdraw or not. And again, tying this back to our policy platform, we're to support initiatives that increase funding for energy efficiency and energy literacy services. And just to level set, I want to emphasize we're not opposed to the SDG&E application to withdraw. What our priority is ensuring that the funding for those programs stays in the region. And so even if SDG&E exits, another portfolio administrator can step up and still provide these energy efficiency programs to San Diegans. All right, so we filed our opening testimony on January 15th in partnership with Clean Energy Alliance, and we filed rebuttal testimony on February 18th. I'll share a few of the themes from that testimony. First, the application's affordability claims are overstated and don't tell the full story. Just one example of this is the application failed to highlight that SDG&E's programs are projected to save ratepayers $11.3 billion over the lifetime of those programs. And so the point here is just regional energy efficiency programs are an affordability measure. They help out our customers in San Diego. And then second, when regional energy efficiency programs are evaluated fairly, they show strong results. And that's contrary to what the application indicates. Third, there's still significant opportunity in the region, despite what the application argues. SDG&E says there really aren't any opportunities to save energy in San Diego, and we provide data that indicates no, there's still a long way to go. Next, if SDG&E withdraws, the commission must carefully consider the risks of compliance gaps. SDG&E states that they can meet their statutory energy savings requirements by relying solely on statewide programs. However, what we're seeing on the ground is that those savings aren't actually materializing. So that's something the commission needs to consider as they evaluate the application. Next, SDREN programs are not duplicative of SDG&Es. Thus, overlap is not a valid argument for withdrawal. One of the justifications that SDG&E has put forward as a reason to close their programs is that SDREN's programs are the same as theirs. That's not the case. We designed the SDREN portfolio to complement SDG&Es. So we lay out the details of that coordination and how we're avoiding overlap in the testimony. And then finally, energy efficiency should evolve, not be displaced by load management and distributed energy resources. SDG&E argues that regional energy efficiency doesn't provide value, and that instead the CPUC should just focus on load management and DERS. We advocate that there's opportunity for innovation here, and let's bring more load management and more distributed energy resources into the statewide energy efficiency portfolio. Thank you, and I'll pass it off to Dean. I'll pass it off to Stephen.
This is me. Okay. Thank you. Good evening, Madam Chair and directors. My name is Stephen Gunther. I'm a regulatory manager at Community Power. I have two regulatory updates for you today, starting with the Power Charge and Difference Adjustment, or the PCIA, which you've heard about many times. But as a quick reminder, PCIA is a rate-making mechanism to make investor-owned utilities whole for the long-term energy investments that they've contracted for, and this directly impacts Community Power's rates. Last year, the CPUC opened a proceeding to review the methodologies and processes of the PCIA and Energy Resource Recovery Account, or ERA, which is where the IOUs recover those PCIA costs. This proceeding was broken into 3 tracks, and there's been significant activity in all 3 tracks in the past 2 months, which is why we wanted to make sure the board was up to date on all the activity happening. So starting with track 1, this was dating back to last year. There was a decision that the PUC made to update the resource adequacy market price benchmark, and that's an input in the PCIA to value the market price of the PCIA portfolio for that comparison of SDG&E's cost to what the market value is. There's currently an active appeal at the California court in the 3rd district challenging the PUC decision, basically arguing that by updating the methodology midway in the rate-making cycle constituted retroactive rate-making, which is barred by California law. So that appeal is still actively going, and similarly, CalCCA filed applications for rehearings in each of the ERA cases for the IOUs, because this is where the PCIA, like I mentioned, is implemented. So to follow the appeal, we also had to file a rehearing in each of those cases as well. Those are still pending at the courts and at the PUC, so we're still waiting on movement from the courts. Next, in track 2, there was a scoping memo and ruling issued earlier this month to set the scope of what track 2 is going to deal with. And this is going to be a very narrow scope that's just going to focus on one specific issue. And this is how renewable energy credits from prior to 2019, how they are valued in the PCIA. And this is important because the value of those bank directs should follow the customers, which is our customers after they left. There is proposals to value them at 0, which would mean that it would impact the PCIA in a negative way for our customers. So we're going to be engaged in this to make sure that those values are accurately reflected, because the IUs are using those bank directs for compliance. So clearly there is a value to them, so it should not be 0. So that is the singular issue that will be dealt with in track 2. And we were expecting track 3 to be subsequent, but just last week, the CPUC filed another ruling asking parties input on what the scope should be for a broader set of remaining issues. And this is a more holistic reform of PCIA and error processes. And this is where we'll be working with CalCCA to look at like I said, much more holistic reform rather than some of these incremental fixes that we've seen in track 1 and track 2. So long story short, there'll be a lot to come in the coming months, but just wanted to level set on where everything is going in the 3 tracks. And my next update is late breaking news as the CPUC just this morning voted to adopt the final decision in the integrated resource planning proceeding. This decision addresses a reliability gap that CPUC staff identified in analysis last September. As a result of that gap that they concluded was there, the decision orders all load serving entities to procure additional what they call qualifying capacity, net qualifying capacity. And that totals 6,000 megawatts over 3 years for all LSEs. And a quarter of that must come from clean, firm resources, for example, geothermal and or long duration energy storage. Community Power's specific obligation will be 81 megawatts for each of those compliance years. But our portfolio is well positioned to meet these requirements. So while we don't like the state mandating this procurement, it's not, it should not be a major issue for Community Power. The final decision was revised pretty significantly from the initial proposed decision that we saw and what's outlined in the staff report. Notably, there is a cap on storage resources that could be used to meet this compliance. And that was removed. That was something that Community Power advocated for with CalCCA. And that allows the storage resources that we're contracting for to meet this requirement, which was considered a major win in the revisions from the initial proposal to what was voted on today. And then this decision also recommended portfolios that the California Independent System Operator uses in their transmission planning process and where those investments will get made through the state. So that concludes my portion, and I'll now pass it off to Dean.
Good afternoon, Chair Lawson Reamer, members of the board. I'm Dean Kinports, Senior Strategic Policy Manager, and today, oops, forgot to. Sorry. Today I'll be going over an overview of Community Power's engagement in SDG&E's Smart Meter 2.0 application, which is a potentially consequential proceeding for Community Power as well as our customers. To summarize the request, SDG&E is asking the Commission for authority to recover about $825 million in costs between 2024 and 2031 to replace end-of-life smart meter equipment and complete related IT upgrades in order to modernize and refresh their advanced metering system. These investments in next-generation technology have the potential to help facilitate the shift to increasingly bidirectional grid by providing granular levels of data and support, high penetration of distributed energy resources, electrification, and innovative customer programs and rates. So the reason this is important for us to engage in is 2 primary reasons: affordability and customer value. Since the cost of this program would be recovered through distribution rates, which means that CCA customers would pay for this too. So, and if ratepayers are funding this major IT and smart meter upgrade, we need to ensure the investment is justified, efficiently managed, and delivers measurable benefits back to all customers. Second is customer value. The Smart Meter 2.0 investment has the potential to unlock important capabilities. These newer devices can support high frequency interval data and potentially near real-time data insights about energy usage and grid performance. So that kind of more granular data is increasingly foundational to managing the modern electric system, especially as we add more distributed energy resources like solar, batteries, EVs, and flexible load. For us, it could mean meaningful improvements in how we operate customer programs, manage local portfolios, and target reliability needs and support our decarbonization goals. But the benefits of this investment will only show up for all customers if the new data capabilities are governed and shared fairly. So right now, SDG&E's proposal and their application does not provide enough detail on how it would ensure open, timely, and equivalent access to these enhanced data streams to CCA customers and community power. That creates this risk of information asymmetry, where, you know, if SDG&E has faster or richer access to customer and system data than we do, it creates that inequality. So if that happens, SDG&E could gain an advantage in customer analytics, customer engagement, program delivery, and even load forecasting. So despite our customers paying for the underlying infrastructure through distribution rates. So our approach to this proceeding is to focus on ratepayer return on investment and fairness. And in that light, we've filed protests on the application and plan on actively intervening throughout the proceeding. And, you know, our key objective is really to secure explicit and enforceable commitments from SDG&E that provide data access and parity. And that includes real-time data access for both community power as well as our customers, so that we can provide, you know, administer programs effectively, pursue cost savings, and deliver reliability and customer value on equal footing. They have not set the schedule for this proceeding yet, so we're waiting on a scoping memo and schedule ruling. But we'll continue to engage and keep you all up to date in what goes on in that proceeding. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you. And I think that actually concludes our team's presentation. So we're here. If you have questions, anything we presented on, we'd be happy to take any questions or comments.
Any questions on the legislative update?
Comment, Madam Chair. I just want to thank your team, Patrick, for being watchful on the legislative you know, efforts, you know, and you know, having a conversation and having that relationship with our legislators. Thank you so much.
Other comments or questions? Please.
Thank you for the update. I'm hoping that at some point CPUC figures out how to understand PCIA and how it's negatively impacting residents of California. Is there anything that our individual cities can do to support the measures that you're taking care of? Obviously, I'm going to make a phone call to Senator Padilla's office and thank him. I think we're starting to see that, but I was just wondering, you know, obviously as a board, we support you just as our individual cities.
Yeah, I'll take a turn then. If anyone wants to add, please feel free. I think specifically on the legislation, we are definitely going to look for opportunities for engagement through the board, through all CCAs throughout the state. That is something we'll be coordinating through Cal CCA. So they're kind of quarterbacking that and then organizing it. Because I think speaking with a voice as a community of CCAs is really important and can also be really impactful. And your voices as governing board members is very impactful as well. So I would say stay tuned on that. And to the extent there are any opportunities to weigh in directly at the PUC process, that's a quasi-judicial process. So it's a little bit different, but I'll turn it over to see if Stephen has any thoughts or anything to add on that.
It would be valuable at the time. As Patrick said, it's often you have to be an official party of the proceeding to make formal comments, and these items are very in the weeds, but sometimes it does help for PC staff to actually hear from communities and community representatives to understand how their decisions are actually impacting people's pockets. So appreciate the offer.
Just to build on that, I thought that was a really good question, a great question. And I think you know, this is a really important legislative agenda every time you come. I think it's an important legislative agenda, not this one in particular. So I absolutely encourage the team to reach out to each of us as board members. and use us as resources. You know, I think not just in our individual capacities, but, you know, if there's legislation that we're trying to move, you know, would it be helpful to have it on the legislative agenda of some of the member jurisdictions that are sitting here today, right? Certainly we have our own ledge agenda in Sacramento, you know, that we put our name on, and I'm sure my colleagues do as well. So both in our personal capacities, but also, you know, representing the jurisdictions that are members of San Diego Community Power. And I think, Karen, the more you all can kind of think about us as part of the strategy and not think you have to lift everything yourself, but say, hey, you know, how can the board and the member jurisdictions contribute? I think the better. So I very much appreciate that question. I think it's right on.
Yeah, and if I may, Chair, point very well taken. I had heard today that actually Cal CCA had conversations with the League of Cities and CSAC as well. And we have, as a member of Cal CCA, requested that they provide us sample letters of support that we can have on file to turn over to you and your staffs, and then also disseminate to local organizations that we think be interested. We plan on doing that outreach here in the next few weeks. So definitely appreciate that and point well taken, and absolutely agree.
Okay, thank you so much. And anyone else?
Thank you, Chair. I believe that, you know, sending us also to those conferences, you know, I mean, it's education on our part, networking with other colleagues in the CCA community. I think one is coming up, and, you know, definitely I learned from those conferences, and I encourage my colleagues here to, you know, I mean, take advantage of those opportunities. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, this is a receive and file. Do we have public comment?
We do not, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we now turn it over to Karen for our CEO's report.
All right, we're doing things a little bit differently today. I just have some comments to wrap up tonight. So first is that in January, together with Middle River Power, Board Director Elo Rivera and I, along with several members of the Community Power team, celebrated the energization of the Border Hybrid Energy Center. The Border Hybrid Energy Center is San Diego's newest battery energy storage facility, co-located with a gas peaker plant, and will provide increased grid reliability and reduced GHG emissions. Projects like this turn our mission into tangible local results that continue to demonstrate our credibility and our commitment to serving our customers sustainably and affordably. And my last announcement is that on Tuesday, February 17th, the Coronado City Council unanimously voted to become the newest member of San Diego Community Power, beginning the process to offer residents a choice in where their electricity comes from, with the potential of lower rates and access to our member-only programs. Coronado Council member Amy Stewart noted that the people of Coronado deserve the same opportunity for affordability, choice, and access to energy programs that most of San Diego County enjoys. This is a testament to the great work being done by our Board of Directors, our Community Advisory Committee, and our Community Power staff. Coronado chose to join our organization because we have proven ourselves over the last 5 years, demonstrating that community choice aggregation not only works, but is a choice that everyone should have. In terms of next steps, over the next several months, Coronado will receive 3 to 5 years of data from SDG&E for analysis by our team. Our new member agency policy stipulates that by the end of October, both Coronado and Community Power's Board of Directors will need to separately vote to affirm and authorize the City of Coronado joining Community Power's JPA. Following that vote, Community Power would file an implementation plan with the CPUC prior to the end of the calendar year, and pending CPUC approval, Coronado residents and businesses could begin receiving service in early 2028. Thank you. That concludes my report.
Thank you. I'm excited to welcome Coronado.
Chair, may I ask a quick question about that? Is it, will it be all right? That's great, and I'm glad. I think that the political diversity of the member cities says a lot about the work that we do here and how beneficial it is, objectively beneficial it is to residents. I am curious, we're doing a lot of work right now to improve workforce standards, to take steps forward when it comes to environmental impacts. And I want to make sure that that is transparent and upfront as cities are considering coming aboard, so that we're protecting the stability of the agency and not creating risk of trying to yank the agency in one direction or another when it comes to some of the progress that we're making, specifically thinking of today's item.
I would say one of the things we have looked for is values alignment with the groups and potential agencies that may be interested in joining us. Sorry, potential cities.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good enough. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. That brings us to the end of our agenda and our next regular meeting. The Community Power Board of Directors will be on March 26, 2026 at 5 o'clock. We are adjourned.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.